Schools across the country due to reopen next Monday. The extended break giving provinces such as Gauteng a chance to get through the worst of the third wave, also allowing teachers who've been vaccinated a chance to build up antibodies so they can safely return to school. Let's discuss the Gauteng schools picture now with Steve Mabona, who speaks for the Gauteng Education MEC. Steve, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. So talk to us. What percentage of Gauteng teachers and support staff have actually been vaccinated against COVID?
Thanks very much, Sally. We are at 92% when we look at the overall picture. That is your educators and your admin staff, including independent schools, everyone that is in the education sector in Gauteng. We are at 92%. The other remainder will conduct a mop-up while the schools are open next week, because we are talking about those that would have probably, they were ill at that time, and those that could not probably, take the vaccination at that time. So we'll do what we call a mop-up and make sure that everyone is catered for.
That's a really high number, 92%. That's really encouraging to hear. Of course, we know that schools closed because of the third wave, and while we know that schools are generally fairly safe, because of how transmissible the Delta variant is, any joint setting, any group setting is going to be risky. We have seen the third wave numbers come down, but how much concern is there amongst the education sector authorities around the COVID third wave in Gauteng specifically?
Well, remember, the high schools will still continue with the rotation. We'll be monitoring very closely. And we said that the primary schools for the first week, starting on the 26th, we will, rely on their timetables. They have a responsibility to make sure that they have timetabling that will still allow them a room to rotate at some point. And on the 2nd of August, that's when we expect them to come back. All of them, they would have adapted, they would have, acclimatized to the environment, make sure that they utilize the spaces that they have in the, to the maximum, and make sure that there's necessary, social distancing. And we've been assured by our schools that they will make sure that they adhere to the non-pharmaceutical interventions, just to make sure that everything is on board.
So just let me be clear, I'm not sure I heard you correctly. Is the 2nd of August the date for all schools, high school as well as primary, to go back to full-time?
Well, we were supposed to, come back on the 26th, your primary schools, all of them. But when we were planning, interacting with all our districts and our schools, to a certain extent, we felt that it was impossible for them to come back, all of them on the 26th. That's why we gave them a room to adapt their timetables so that, when we start on the 26th, they still continue with the rotation. Those that they can manage to have all of them, they will interact with the parents and say, we need the children, all of them. But by the 2nd of August, we expect that all would have acclimatized, and they will be in a position to bring, all the children. We are talking about the primary schools, because remember, we said we have lost so much curriculum time at the primary school level. So that's where we want to recover. And we want to make sure that at least we move with our curriculum.
Okay, so I understand. So for primary schools that were meant to come back on the 26th full-time, you're giving them a week or so to sort of just get themselves together. And primary schools, probably from the 2nd of August, should be all streamlined to be full-time. When are high schools going to go full-time, do you think?
Well, we will be guided by the experts, like as we've been saying, that we are expert-driven. We take a call from the Department of Health and on how they will be then advising us, and the minister will then be guided, and she will be in a position to pronounce, because remember, at the provincial level we implement what the minister has announced, and we will be monitoring very closely. But the grade 11 and 12, those we are making sure that, the majority of them, they should be in our schools on an everyday basis, just to make sure that we recover and make sure that we prepare them for the examination that is oncoming. So hence, even when we were on recess, they continued with the walk-in centers that were opened to make sure that we recover, the curriculum time lost. So those ones we manage very closely. But we are hopeful that in the long run, we should be in a position to welcome everyone.
Oh, that's good news. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That's Steve Mabona, who speaks for the Gauteng Education MEC, saying 92% of teachers and support staff at the schools across Gauteng have received the COVID vaccination. That certainly is very good news this evening.